is show you how the thing runs. Okay, so what we shall be looking at today is we're illustrating a simple project to simulate Yaka. So in short, we are going to be having two sides of the system where one party is a meter guy who is the customer, and then on the other hand we have a system vendor. In this event, let's say MTN, Umeme, or UECDL, whichever the vendor is. So now today our vendor is Remedius. So let's go in and jump in and see how the whole thing works. So to run this, we're going to do, and at the end of the session, Dr. Joshua, as he's sharing the video for this particular session, he will also send the material so that you can test it out and get a feel of the whole system on your own, and you can modify it to your liking. But today, let's just go ahead and we shall begin with the customer. So when you load the customer, it's going to ask you to log in and exit. So now in this scenario, we are simulating how maybe someone is they are like assigning you a Yaka in short. So this is not the part we begin with. So here we exit out of this, and then now we go to the vendor side where maybe Mujuni Raphael has gone to Umeme or to the vendor in this event to do registration. So the first thing we're going to do is register a customer. So we enter a new customer. Now this customer is going to be Mujuni. So this is a response of our program. It says customer Mujuni registered with balance 0. So now we're able to install a Yaka meter for Mujuni. So now let's go ahead and install the Yaka meter. So 5 to exit, and then we go and install this customer. So now simulating the installation of the customer is going to be login. So I log in as Mujuni. So as you can see now, Mujuni has been installed, but he doesn't have power. We can check by option number 4, which is going to show us that Mujuni's current balance is 0 kilowatts. So now at this point, Mujuni doesn't have power, so he can't use the Yaka. So he's going to have to buy a token. So to buy a token, he's going to go to number 1. But as you can see, this is via a vendor. So a vendor is the only person that can generate a token, not the user. So you can't create a token on your generated by the vendor. Please buy from the vendor. So now at this point, we are going to log in as the vendor. So we exit out of that. We log in as the vendor. So now at this point, we generate token for customer. So when we generate a token, it's going to ask for the customer username. In this case, kind of like an account number. So at this point, let's put a emoji with the wrong spelling. So as you can see, a customer is not found if you put a name that is not really in the system. So let's register. Let's generate a token for a customer that actually exists, like Mujuni. And for questions, you can post them in the chat. Dr. Joshua would be replying them, but I'll get to reply them when I get the chance. But in the meantime, we can just be going through the system. So now, if we are to generate a token for Mujuni, it's going to ask enter the amount of units to purchase. Maybe this guy wants 200 units. So this is the token generated for this customer. So we copy this token and we can go and assign it to our customer. So we log in again to simulate an account number. So in this case, we are using Mujuni. And so now at this point, we load the token. So if we load the token, so as you can see, the token has been accepted and it's 200 units and Mujuni's balance is now 200 kilowatts. So now at this point, Mujuni has power. You can use Yaka. So we can also simulate maybe Mujuni wants to get funny and reload the same token. So if I reload the same token, it's going to tell me that token is already used. So you can't use a token that you've already created. Basically, like how the usual Yaka doesn't work. So if we show the balance of this customer, we shall see that his current balance is 200 kilowatt hour. Now we can use Yaka. Now here we are simulating the power usage. Say maybe this customer uses, I don't know, like 20 kilowatts every hour. So let's simulate that usage. So if there are 20 kilowatts, maybe for 4 hours, let us use Yaka. So it's going to ask, enter the power usage in kilowatts. This is maybe 20 kilowatts is equal to, maybe this guy has a milling machine, he has a charging station, he does, anyway, all sorts of businesses, but they consume power of up to 20 kilowatts in 4 hours. So if you put 20 kilowatts, it's going to ask for the duration in hours. So it's simulating you're using a constant 20 kilowatts for the 4 hours. So as you can see, it tells the guy that he has consumed 80 kilowatts and his balance is 120 kilowatts. So let's simulate that he has used all of the power. And let's say 120, 1 hour. So now his balance is 0. So now let's try and try to use power when he has a balance of 0. Excuse me. So usually the next day is trying to use power. He needs maybe 2 kilowatts for 1 hour. So what it's going to say is this guy has insufficient balance. The power is cut off. Reload units to use. So at this point, do we have any questions? Or you can start looking at the code or comments.
Yeah, actually, that was my question because I was wondering where the code is coming from, but thank you.
All right. All right. So um, let's just dive into the code now. So if you look to my project folder, you're going to find files, which I'll explain. So let's begin with the customer CLI. So customer CLI in full, it basically stands for the customer command line interface. I wanted it to be, well, a CLI so that I could simulate properly. I did not really have time to build a front end, which would have been fun to show you how, the best use case scenario for the things you've learned so far. But in the meantime, I'm simulating something that closely resembles a USSD. So now we have the customer CLI, we have the data store JSON file, and then we have a vending system. We have the vendor CLI, and then we have the Yaka meter. So we are going to talk about how all of these files come together to do exactly what you saw. Two files could do the same thing, but for to be organized, it's better to separate some files. Actually, like us in some lessons that Joshua taught, he talked about um, some functions that you don't need to be writing every time in the single file, yet you can write them and call them every time you need them. So now let's get into the customer CLI. So now uh, let's begin with the data source actually, which is the data store we have here. So this is what I've used to simulate a database. So here we're just going to show what each of these is, this, so that we can get a better understanding of the system. So this is just get this as sort of a database that we are using to write and read from. So if you see uh, in this object, we have tokens, and these are the tokens that are created for whichever user with how many units they have bought and the status. If it is used, it's either a true or a false, like you see here. So for example, this customer here has not used these units, which means he can use this token and its status will change to true. We are also going to look at how those statuses change and get a better understanding. So let's begin, let's jump in. So we've talked about variables, we've talked about functions, we've talked about a lot of things, but today I'm going to it's like how you go to class, you learn one plus one is one, but you go to the exam and you find solve for A. So today, it's kind of the same ish anyway. So import JSON. JSON is again a function that we are calling to read JSON files, which I'll talk about more. So we are getting our function, which is Yaka we are importing it from a file, which is Yaka. So if you either rename this wrong or you rename our file here, which you see Yaka wrong, it's going to throw an error at this point before we even continue. So importing JSON helps us to deal with JSON files, kind of like you see here. So data file is a variable that is picking our JSON file, which is from data store.json, which is what we see here. Then our load data function, takes in the open our data file. This is reading it, and we are loading it into this. Now, at this point, let's just get to that. And this is basically a try catch. I don't know if Joshua talked about this before, but this is when you want to make sure your project is running without having weird errors that pop up. For example, maybe the file is not the same format as the required format. So this is a try catch. Python we write as try except. So at this point, we've loaded the file and we are returning whatever the file has loaded. So in the event that the file is not found, we are going to return the price per unit as 1, the customer's object as empty, and the tokens object as empty. So like we saw in the data store here, we are going to realize that we have a data set for price per unit. We have for customers and we have for tokens. So in the event that the file is not found, it's just going to load this by default so that the system doesn't break or it doesn't cause errors at this point. Because at this point, if you don't have any information to go ahead use, if the file is not there, then you can't really do anything past this point. So now this is when you're loading the data. So you're reading what is in the file to use it. Now this function, which is save data, is well, this is what we are using, as you can guess, to write to the file. And you may be wondering why you see this R or why you see this W again. This in the JSON it specifies why we use an R, why we use a W, yes. And for R, that means it is a read. So that is why when you are loading data, you are reading it. And when you're saving data, in this case, you are writing it. So we are writing it and we are getting whatever we've written, which is in the data file here, and dumping it and make sure that it is indented properly with the spaces, 4 spaces like Joshua had mentioned earlier in the previous tutorials. And then we go ahead and look at our registration function. So here it's going to ask, not really ask, but you're defining the username, which is picked from the input, where we are telling the customer to enter a new username to register. So if this is now conditionals, so if username, that is now we're picking it from the input we've put. If username in data which we are reading from this sense, in customers, in short, if the username in data is in customers, print that the username already exists and you return nothing really. So yes, where are we? Yes, data that has that is okay. So where customers is in our data, put our name and their balance, which in this case, since it is the first registration, so now like we see, if this if this condition is met, we are going to stop there. The username already exists, so we are going to tell the user to go back to putting a new name. Now, if the user, so when we proceed from here and now this condition is not met, we proceed to this part where we are saving the data into the data, like we had specified up there in the save. Then we are going to tell the user that he has been registered, and then we return the username. I hope we are still together here. So now we check out the load, and today, apologies, I'll be very fast because we have some bit of things to cover, and I'd like to cover them in the little time that we have. So if you have any question, please keep noting it down so that we can have a session towards the end of the session of the class, so that we can go through, iron out any challenges, and we can see how to help each other. So now in the loading token, this is again another function. So we now have three parameters. We have the data, we have the meter, and the username. So you might be wondering where we are getting meter and user. Okay, basically the meter from. So if you see, imported the Yaka meter from Yaka meter, but we shall get there to see where this comes from. So now we are now asking for the token, asking the user to enter the token, and so now we are assigning a variable token info to pick tokens from our data and only get the token. So we are going to continue and we see how we get this, where we get this from, and as we proceed. So now if the token info is not what is saved, so like basically if the token information does not match with what the person has input, we're going to put an invalid token. Then, so these are the parameters we are checking for. If it is an invalid token, if it is a used token, and if the token does not belong to the person's account, we are also going to simulate this by the way. And then if accepted, we accept the token, get the token and get the token information saved within the same data. Okay, so if accepted, oh yeah, we've talked about this. If it is accepted, yes, excuse me, give me a bit of 2 minutes. I first do something here. All right, we are back. So we are loading the token, making sure, basically validating the token, and if the token is accepted, then yes, if the token is accepted, then we save the data in the respective places it should go to. And then we have our use power here, which is again a function. And so we discussed what float does already. And so this is our variable taking in the power. This is our time, which is in hours. And I'm sure we already know how to convert minutes to hours, which at some point gets to give you floating digits. A floating digit is something like a 1 point something something something. So we are now having to check the power that the user has entered. So if power is less or equal to 0, or the time is less or equal to 0, we're going to print and tell the person that, or the customer, that the power and time must be positive numbers. In short, you can't reverse you can't reverse your Yaka. In short, you can't put power through your Yaka to increase it. Yes, that is the check for that. So this project illustrates the if statements in depth to your desired solution. So you can have as many checks as you want, as long as you achieve your desired solution. Else, if you don't put this, so this checks for the value you're inputting. As you see, we already specify the float. So if you put something that is not a float, or that doesn't meet a float conditions, then it's going to give you an invalid input. So in this case, again, this we looked at with Dr. Josh, more like in the very first lessons when I was teaching about integers and all of that. So once there is a success, then we write this information to our data, which again we talked about in this side. So at this point, we save in our so-called DB for now, so that we can keep track that this person has used these many units, and maybe this is their balance. So this is why we have to save to our DB, well, our so-called DB, which is a DB. So this is for showing balance. You just basically get what customers, what the username you're specifying, in this case that is logged in, and you fetch their balance, which is what you print out here. And then we go to the main. So now this function, we are going to talk about it a bit in depth. So this main is where we shall be telling the system to start running when we basically start the application. So here we define our data, we define our meter, we define our username. So while all of that is true, we are going to print this, which is what you saw earlier. I had initially put register for the customer, but then I realized we don't register like a user on their Yaka meter they don't register. So it did not make sense to put the register there. So we shall skip the register on the platform for the customer. So now we're just going to tell the customer to log in or exit the application. And this is what the conditional statements that tell what you've done. So in short, if you put a condition, it's going to check and then do the appropriate. So for example, choice, we are choosing the input from, well, an option of 1, 2, 3, but I had removed the third option. So we can keep it to 2. And then if the choice that has been input is 3, well, it is there, though I did not want to display it for the user to use. Well, we can register the user. Same function we are going to see in the vendor. So if the choice of the user is 1, so in this case we are logging in. So we are going to capture the username, then check the username again. So if the username is not in the data of customers, we're going to print that the user is not found. Then if that means that the customer has been found in the data, we are going to get their balance, and then also going to print telling them that they are welcome back to their system. Now, so, okay. So yes, we're going to tell them that they are welcome back in their system, and then also display to them, because now this condition is now true. So we're going to tell them that this is their user menu. They can buy tokens, they can load the tokens, they can use their tokens, they can show their balance, or they can log out. So now at this point, we tell the user to choose an option. So C for choice is the input we are capturing, and if the condition is any one of these, we are going to check. So if the choice that is chosen is 1, we print tokens are generated by the vendor, please buy from the vendor. Then if choice is 2, we are going to load the token. Yes, we're going to load the token, which is where we are going to look out at this and we figure out what this does in the Yaka meter file. Then if the choice is 3, we are using power. So all of these that we are seeing here, we are going to see where we are getting them from. And yeah, by logging out, we log out. So we just break the system from there. Else, if none of the choices are made, if one puts like for example, a 6, we're going to tell them that this is an invalid option. And if choice number 2 is chosen, which is now, if you check the indents, we are now using this. We're now in this condition, no, which has to do with the input, the very input. So now we had chosen number 1. So now if you choose number 2, we are going to exit. We are going to tell the customer that we are exiting the customer system and then break the system, thereby closing the operations of the system. Then this else is for yes, this else is for this while. So while true, perform all of these, and else you print invalid option. Now we had talked about we had talked about the main and what it does. So so this file, this line that you're seeing here, basically means that only the function with main here is what is going to be executed directly and not imported. So when we put this line here that you see, we are telling the system that when I load this file, go and load this function, which in this case, as you see, is the main that we've been interacting with. So yes, this is the end of the customer CLI Python file. Yes, again, keep noting your questions if any. We have looked at our DB. So this is where we get, again, our tokens. So these numbers that you see here are tokens. So we now go and look at our three files. That is we are vending and the Yaka meter. How the things are calculated and where some variables were coming from. So let's just quickly jump into our vending system. So our vending system is importing random. Random is a function that creates random numbers. So this random number, this random function is going to help us to create the tokens that you've just seen here randomly. So without you having to input all of these things manually, you just take a function to help you do that thing for you. Okay. So we've looked at the init and the self before. We've looked at classes. String again is another function that we are importing. We are going to still see how all of these things, they work together to form the thing that we have just seen. So now we generate the token. We are generating the token. From here. So let's go to the CLI. Oh, no. This is the vending system. Before we go to the vending system, like we're not going to go to the meter yet, let me first go here and also talk about the vendor, and then we can talk about the last two files so that I don't confuse people. So again, in the vendor, we are going to import our JSON file, rather our JSON function. We are getting a function vending system from the vending system file, which is this. We do the same here for vending. So we're writing to the same DB. We're writing to the same DB, so we are going to do what we did earlier in customers. We are going to do it in vendor as well. So we are loading the data. Again, if things are not found, blah, 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 blah. We've actually talked about this. I won't really go through it. So then we have seen the registration of customers. I also want to go to that. Then we are setting price. Now, setting price is actually I wanted to set price, but I didn't use it because I had to quickly write this for presentation, and I did not capture this. So we shall see how to capture this together. So that, because right at this point we put the units, but ideally my idea was to have someone enter the amount and calculate their units based on this price you've put, but we shall discuss that further. So this function, I'm not using it at the moment, just to set the price per unit, which I am not using at the moment. So we can leave this function for now. Then we go to generating our token. So we are generating a token, and in this moment, we are asking the user to enter the customer username to generate a token. First, so here we look through our customers, and if our customers is not found, we return. Let me just go to, if our customers is not found, we of course tell the customer that the customer is not found. Then if our customer is correct, we proceed to this, and we tell the customer to enter the amount of units to purchase in integer. And if we again still have to check if the units that are raised are less than 0, we're going to throw an error and tell the customer to that they have put invalid amount. And then, well, if everything is done properly, then we are going to save the data and tell the customer that the token, which has been generated for however many units you entered, and for the customer, is what is going to display. Yes. Then we have our main, which we have also talked about again in our previous file. It's going to do the same thing that we've seen, only it's going to print different things and do different things also. So choice 1, choice 2. So we've looked at the else if in this case, and now let me take you to the file that has some of the functions that we are calling here that we are not seeing. So now in this case, let me go to the vendor. Let me begin with the vending system. So we are importing a vending system. In this case, it is here as our class. And this is what our class does. It's going to generate a random token of 6 digits and also verify that the token that is being created does not exist. So this is what our vending system is basically doing. And then we have our Yaka also, which we are going to look at. Yes, so we have our accept token, which I wanted to look into. It is the thing that I wanted to discuss as to how we are accepting the tokens and rejecting the tokens. So we have our guys here. which we are defining balance to zero, the history to set. So if our token in self dot token history, if the token in self history, so it's going to basically do, where is that? Oh, yes. So this is our token history. So this is our token history from the DB that has all tokens, and we are assigning it to token history here. So we are going to check if you're going to check if the token info, which is gotten from our tokens in data, so if our token is already in the token history, it's going to tell the person that the token is already used. Then if the token info in this case, which we are finding here, is not what is in the DB, then it's going to tell the person that it is an invalid token. If the token if the token that is entered corresponds with what has been saved, it's going to tell them that the token is already used. So we are going to see that if the token that is gotten is, if the status is false, so if the used is false, that means this person has not put the token yet and they can use it, which is why we end up getting to this part here. And we Yes, members, excuse me for just 2 minutes. Let me deal with something small here. Sorry about that. All right, all right. So yes, we were. Yes, we were here. If the token, yeah, if the token is already used, we are going to throw. If the information that has been from gotten from the RDB is false, then this token is it hasn't been used. So we. Hmm? Yes, yes. If the token that has already been, if the token has, okay, so we have two statuses. If it is true and if it is false. And if it is false, we are going to tell the customer that the token is already used. Else, when the token meets all the criteria of the token is available for a specific customer and the token has not been used, which in this case is that it is true, then we continue and give this person the token. And of course, we don't forget to update our token history so that this person doesn't use the token again. So the true that you are seeing here is the true that. Oh yeah, I have forgotten to. So the units which we are getting from our DB that we specified in our, okay, when you are, yes, when we are generating the token, we, jeez. Yes, so we get that, we add it, we add the units that we have gotten from our, again, from the token info which we've looked at, we add it to our balance and we add it to our token history as well. And we tell the customer that the token has been accepted with how many units, in this case, the units, and we now display the new balance for the customer. Then we have this last part here, getting balance, that is self-explanatory. And then we now look at the final function, which is the consuming of power, and we see that the usage is equal to the power times the hours, and we reduce the balance based on what the usage is. This is what we find here. And then we tell the customer that the usage of however many watts that the person is using, the kilowatts, the remaining balance is what we fetch from balance. And else we tell the guy that that means that if the balance is zero, we tell that we tell the client, we tell the customer that they have insufficient balance and they can reload their units. So now I see we are closing in on our time, and I wanted 30 minutes to be our session for. Yes, I wanted the last 30 minutes to be a session where we can interact. So questions, confusion, we can iron them out right here. I'm seeing Anthony Mujisha in the chat is not ready for a project. I don't know why. He can maybe elaborate on why he's not yet ready. Yes, hello members.
Yes, hello.
Yes, yes, Rodney.
I think, thank you so much, first of all, Engineer Ernest. I think maybe Ernest could also be having the same problem as not Ernest, sorry, Anthony could be having the same problem that I had, like having all these series of code at once. Um, maybe was a bit overwhelming for him. Yeah.
So could we maybe break this into a session where maybe we cover one file at a time and understand exactly how they communicate together?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, Alan.
This is Shepherd.
Yes, Shepard.
I feel like we probably need to break this down, like you said, you know. Oh, there's
All right.
someone speaking.
Yes.
I was saying,
I see Alan is trying to speak, but let's give Shepard the chance to elaborate, then we can allow.
Yes.
I was
Let him. Okay. Okay.
Yes, Shepard,
I
please go
was
ahead.
saying that probably need to like break down and see how these different files communicate with each other, the database, the vending system. Like it's a lot. You know, usually when we are doing with doctor, we code along. I don't know if I'm the only one, but me, I was just watching. I could not follow. I could not code along. Definitely, you had, you know, pre-written the code,
Okay.
but uh, um, I need like I was telling doctor maybe when the recording is out, I can follow line by line and try to capture, but we might need to probably like break it down and take us through as you generate every line of code. I know that's a lot to ask, but
Oh,
once we
sure,
have
sure.
gone
That
a
is
certain way,
I would like all of us to be on the same page because all of this leads to where we are going. So I'd like not to leave us behind. So yes, definitely we can have a session where we can code along. I realized if I was to do a code along session, we would have even not gone through one file, or even half of the file, because I'm sure I would have very many errors. So I pre-wrote this just to have an idea of what the things we've been learning can do. So we can see how to break them down. Yes, I see Alan had also a question. Thank you for your suggestion, Shepard. Yes,
Yeah.
please, Alan.
Actually, thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, sorry, I'm in a bit late, but
Alan, your network seems to be breaking. Maybe
I
you could type in chat or get a clearer position to.
we can now it's broken down otherwise. Most of the
Alan, I think if you can hear me clearly, you post your question in chat. And then I see Anthony's hand is up. If he has any clear network, we can hear from him.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Thank you for the presentation. Like the previous people had said, I see there are a lot of codes, a lot of new, I don't know if they are function, they are methods, because I see like there are a lot of new terms or like methods or terms in here, which really can't like grasp in one setting. I don't know how we're going to handle that, but see, it is overwhelming. I don't know how you guys got to this level. Maybe you need to guide us.
No problem. We are definitely going to get to the same level. Thank you, Anthony, for your suggestion. Yes, Duncan.
Good evening, members. To Ernest, thank you very much for taking us through this session today. My only maybe questions would be, Anthony had raised in the group, how do you come up with like this sort of whole projects? You know, maybe you'd have first sit down and come up with some kind of logical flow. Maybe you can also take us through that. I don't know how you do that. Then second, going through the code, I think when you were in customer CLI.py, the RWs, which are sort of like file permissions, yeah, where you had are those like pre-recorded as well, or they come with like the compiler in Python? Are they defined already, or these were just like markers for you, like for save data and load data?
Thank you. So these that you see, the R and W are from this function that it's what tells the function what to do. Are you like reading the file or you're writing to the file? So those prefixes of R and W are specified to the JSON to the function. It tells the function that I am trying to write, so you write, or I'm trying to read, you read the file and give me what I'm trying to pick out of the file that I have given you.
Okay, thank you for that. I think I now know that they are like pre-recorded.
Okay, I think when when Dr. Josh was talking about some of these functions that we call and talk about, he didn't maybe take you to how a file, for example, how a JSON function would look like if you called it, so that you know where we are getting some files. But I am going to see how I can break this down further. I thought I had broken this down way further to accumulate this session, but it turns out that I did not do a good job at breaking it down further. So I'm going to do that. I also saw Soro's hand was up, so he can comment on something.
Yeah, my suggestion is actually similar to his. You see, like you didn't write in just one Python file, you break down your reasoning into customer, vending, venture, and Yaka. So I think if we can have like a logical flow, maybe if you're doing such a project, you first think about the entire process. From this one, I see that you first thought about all the entire process, then you organize yourself in these different files, okay?
Okay.
And then you write them separate. Maybe if we can have that logical flow syncing, because some of the things we have learned them, others are new. That is true. Like JSON, I'm seeing in some of those files, they're importing the JSON file first. So we really don't know what it does and how it ties up in the entire project.
Okay. So I'm going to see how because imagine I wrote all of these, like I had even at the beginning of the session, I had said that it could have been about 2 files whereby I have like one Python file that has everything, which would have confused people way. Because for example, this customer file has only about 121 lines of code. Combined with the rest, we would be in over 200 or 300 lines of code, and yeah, things would get interesting there. So I had broken it down in this way so that at least we have a few lines per file to go through. But now I realize that we are going to have to break it down even further so that we don't leave anyone. So in the meantime, as we are sharing this video, I'm also going to share this project folder so that we can have a look through, and so that for our next session, as we are going through file by file and how files interact with each other, all these new functions that you're seeing, then we can tackle them and you know, get along. So any more suggestions, comments, questions?
Hello? Ernest.
Yes.
Also, so must this be done in VS Code, or when you send the file, it can be opened, say, notebooks in Jupyter?
Yes,
or
most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, VS Code is my preferred. It's my preferred, IDE, but you can use any other that's.
No, what I'm saying is,
Mm.
when you send this file, it can only
Mm.
be opened in VS Code, right?
Not really. You can even use
Okay.
the notebooks that you've been using.
Okay,
Just
then,
that
thank
VS
you.
Code is my preferred IDE.
No worries. Thanks.
Yes, Soro, you had an
No,
addition. All right, members, if there is any other question, we can type it in the chat. But for now, thank you for attending this session. I'm going to send through the files so that we can look through practice. And,
I have such like
yes,
inquiry.
Matthew.
Yeah, I was like, you have broken them down, and people are saying to break them further. But for me, I saw that it would be good when it's just one, so that for his understanding that this same comes to this one. But when breaking them down, I think it is very difficult again to connect them.
So are we saying we just write one file and we die with a file?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying.
All right. Yes, Duncan, I see you have your hand up.
Maybe just to give Matthew and the rest of the guys a little background. If you had this as one file, it would further complicate matters. I just take Ernest's word for it. This is the better way to have it so that you're calling the file from somewhere else. I don't know. If it was one file, trust me, it would be much harder to understand, especially if you're just getting into the programming environment.
All right, so I am going to send this as the initial folder, project folder, and then I'll send another that has one file that has all of this, and then we can look at all of them. I have no problem. I just want us to be all on the same page. Yes, the ladies are quiet. Rovia, you don't have anything to say? All right, members. We are going to catch up on the next one. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Have a good night.